Evan Hale stepped off the landing ramp with a careful breath, letting the warm air of Valaris 5 touch his face. The sky above him glowed in gentle shades of blue and silver, a calm color that made the entire planet feel peaceful. Evan had traveled across many worlds before, but none had felt like this one. None had felt like home, and none had given him someone like Lyra. He held a small silver box in his hand. Inside it was a ring he had crafted himself, using metal from his homeworld, and a glowing shard Lyra once gifted him. He had polished it for days, wanting it to look perfect. Today, he planned to tell her the truth he had kept inside his chest for months. He wanted to marry her. Evan walked down the crystal path that led to the glowing Solani Gardens, where Lyra waited for him almost every afternoon. She was always early, always sitting under the tall, shimmering trees that released tiny lights like drifting dust. She liked quiet places. Crowds made her nervous. Loud voices made her step back. New people made her hide behind her sleeve. But with him, she never hid. When Evan finally reached the garden, he saw her sitting in the same place as always near the small stream, her pale silver hair flowing with the light breeze. Her soft pink skin glowed under the sun, and her large violet eyes looked peaceful as she watched the floating fireflies drift over the water. Lyra noticed him and stood quickly, smoothing her dress as if she wanted to look perfect. She always did that around him, even though she never needed to. Evan, she said softly. You came early today. I wanted to see you earlier. He replied with a warm smile. She lowered her eyes, nervous but happy. Lyra was gentle, quiet, and kind, different from the rest of her species, who were known for being expressive and bold. She always worried that she didn't shine like her sisters. Evan believed she shined in her own way, brighter than all of them. They walked together toward the stream. Lyra asked about his journey, his ship repairs, and his day. Evan answered everything calmly, enjoying every moment of her company. She listened carefully, occasionally brushing her hair behind her ear when she felt shy. Finally, after minutes of peaceful silence, Evan took a breath. Lyra, there's something important I want to talk about. Her heart almost jumped. She clasped her fingers together tightly. Is something wrong? She whispered. No, he said quickly. Nothing is wrong. It's something good. Something very important to me. Lyra tilted her head slightly, nervous again but curious. Evan opened the small silver box. Lyra froze. Inside it lay the glowing ring, shining with a soft blue light that blended perfectly with the planet's air. Lyra covered her mouth with both hands. Lyra, Evan said gently. I know human and Solani culture are different. I know marriage means something deeper here. But I want you to know something. Meeting you changed my life. Being with you made me realize I don't want to travel alone anymore. I want to build a life with someone who makes every day peaceful. Her eyes filled with soft light. I want to be with you, Evan continued. If your family will allow it. If you will allow it. I want to marry you. Lyra felt the world stop. She took a step back, not from fear, but from shock. She had spent her whole life thinking she was quiet, ordinary, unnoticed compared to her confident sisters. She never thought a human, especially one as calm, strong, and kind as Evan, would want to choose her. You want me? She whispered. Evan stepped closer and took her hands gently. I want only you. She looked down at their hands. His warm human skin felt steady, grounding, protective. She had always loved that about him, his calmness, his patience, the way he never raised his voice or forced his presence on her. I don't want anyone else, he said softly. Just you, Lyra. Her eyes brimmed with emotion. I accept, she whispered. But, Evan, my family, they are very different from me. My sisters are. She struggled to find a kind word. More confident, Evan suggested gently. Lyra nodded quickly. Yes, and expressive. Very expressive. They do not understand calm people. They do not understand shyness. They will look at you. They will ask questions. So many questions. Her voice became even softer. Please don't feel uncomfortable, Evan smiled. I won't. I want to meet them. I want to do everything properly. Lyra felt her heart warm. Then, we must visit them today. The matriarch says it is important to meet the family before any union. Then let's go, he said. The walk to her family home took almost half an hour. Lyra lived in a large, glowing structure, made of crystal stone, shaped like curved petals surrounding a bright core. It was beautiful, but intimidating, especially because inside waited the 4 sisters she had spoken about. Before reaching the door, Lyra stopped. Evan, she said quietly, please, remember you chose me, not them. He knelt down slightly to meet her eyes. I chose you before I even knew you had sisters. Her cheeks flushed pink as she lowered her gaze again. When they entered the home, the first thing Evan noticed was the brightness. Everything sparkled softly, walls, plants, even the air. And then he heard voices. 4 of them, Lyra's sisters, entered the room, and Evan realized instantly why she had been nervous. The first sister, Saris, stepped forward. She looked elegant, sharp-eyed, and confident, wearing long robes decorated with symbols of diplomacy. She studied Evan the way a scientist studied a rare discovery. So this is the human, Saris said with curiosity. I did not expect calm energy. Interesting. 1. Saris, the second sister, Nira, appeared beside her. She was tall, athletic, bold, and full of fire in her expression. He doesn't look as dangerous as the stories say, she said, leaning forward to inspect him. He looks steady and strong. The third sister, Velia, moved gently, her hands glowing faintly with healing energy. His aura is different, she said softly. Warm, balanced, pleasant. The fourth sister, Kaelri, stood at the back. She was mysterious and quiet, her eyes slightly brighter than the others. She said nothing, but she watched him very closely. Lyra stepped behind Evan slightly, clearly overwhelmed. Evan bowed respectfully, trying to follow Solani customs. It's an honor to meet Lyra's family. The sisters all leaned closer at the same time. Saris. How does a human show commitment? Nira. How strong are you compared to our guards? Velia. Do humans feel emotions differently? Kaelri. Why did you choose Lyra? Afteri. The questions came one after another like a storm. Lyra looked horrified, covering her face with her hands. Evan, however, remained calm. He answered each question politely, smiling softly at Lyra whenever she peeked between her fingers. Finally, Saris spoke again, sounding surprised. You came for Lyra. Only Lyra? Yes, Evan said without hesitation. The sisters exchanged glances. A soft whisper moved across the room. Why her? Lyra tensed, but Evan stepped closer to her and took her hand, right in front of her sisters. Because she's the one I love, he said simply. The sisters went silent. Their eyes widened, not in anger, but in something else. Interest, curiosity, admiration. And Lyra suddenly understood what she feared the most. Her sisters didn't just find Evan interesting. They found him very interesting. Too interesting. And this was only the beginning. Evan stood quietly in the center of the Solani family hall, while Lyra stayed close to him, almost hiding behind his arm. Her sisters continued to stare at him as if he was the most unusual creature they had ever seen. Their eyes were bright, curious, almost sparkling with excitement. For a moment, Evan wondered if this was normal. On his world, meeting a partner's family usually involved a calm greeting and a few polite questions. Here, however, it felt as if he had stepped into a room where every person wanted to study him, question him, and understand everything about him in 1 minute. Lyra gently tugged on his sleeve. I'm sorry, she whispered softly. My sisters are a lot. I can handle it, Evan said with a quiet smile. But Lyra didn't look convinced. Saris, the eldest of the sisters, stepped forward first. She carried herself like someone who spent years training in diplomacy. Her robes shimmered like thin glass. Human Evan, she said with interest. Your emotional balance is unusual. Most species become tense in unfamiliar rooms. Yet you seem calm. Why? 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 Evan answered kindly. Because I'm not here to impress anyone. I'm only here for Lyra. Lyra's cheeks turned pink again, but Saris looked even more intrigued. Confidence without arrogance, she murmured. Very rare. Nira, the bold warrior sister, crossed her arms and tilted her head. How much can you lift? She asked suddenly. Evan blinked. Lift? Yes, she said. Lift, push, carry. Humans are rumored to be strong. I want to see if it's true. Before Evan could answer, Lyra gasped softly. Nira, please. This is not a strength test. But Nira only smiled. I am only curious. Velia, the gentle healer sister, spoke next. His aura is bright. He carries calmness like a shield. It is comforting. She took a step closer, studying him carefully. Humans feel differently from us. Maybe that draws us in. Kaelri, the quietest sister, remained silent in the back. She didn't move much, but her eyes followed Evan with a deep intensity, as if she understood things before anyone else. Evan felt Lyra cling to his arm tighter. He whispered, Are you all right? She nodded, but her voice trembled slightly. Evan, they never act like this. They're usually very calm with new people. I don't know why they're excited? Evan finished. She looked embarrassed. Yes. Saris stepped closer again, her expression bright. Human Evan. You must understand something. Solani culture admires emotional steadiness and gentle behavior. Many species think humans are hot-tempered. But you behave differently, Nira added. You also seem strong but peaceful. That combination is rare on our world. Velia smiled softly. And your connection with Lyra is pure. It is admirable. Evan felt the energy shift in the room. The sisters weren't simply curious anymore. They were impressed. Too impressed. Lyra noticed it too, and her steps became even smaller. She looked down at the floor, afraid her sisters were already comparing themselves to her. Saris spoke again, this time directly to Lyra. Why didn't you tell us he was like this? Lyra froze. Like what? Calm, strong, loyal. Saris listed. These things are very appealing. Nira nodded. If I knew humans were this interesting, I would have asked to meet one long ago. Velia added softly. A gentle energy like his could bring harmony to anyone. Kaelri finally spoke, her voice low but clear. I want to understand why he chose you. Lyra felt as if the floor vanished beneath her feet. Evan stepped forward slightly, putting himself in front of her. I chose Lyra because I love her, he said simply. That one sentence made the sisters fall silent again. It was rare on their world for someone to express emotions with such directness. Most Solani spoke in soft hints or poetic phrases, but humans were honest in a completely different way. Saris looked at Evan with even more fascination. Direct affection, strong intention, interesting. Very interesting. Nira leaned in. You want to marry her, correct? Yes, Evan said. And you would stay on our planet for her? Yes. Velia smiled warmly. That is beautiful. But Kaelri narrowed her eyes slightly. Your decision is strong. But is it final? Evan didn't hesitate. Completely final. Lyra's sisters exchanged glances again, this time with something like silent communication. Their expressions shifted from curiosity to admiration. And then, something else. Interest. One by one, they looked at Evan not as Lyra's visitor but as a potential partner someone would be lucky to have. And Lyra realized with a tightening heart that her sisters were beginning to see him not as a guest, but as someone they could want too. Lyra tugged on Evan's arm and whispered, Please, please follow me. Evan nodded, and the two slipped away from the hall before the sisters could ask more questions. She led him to a small, quiet garden room behind the main hall. Once they were alone, Lyra finally looked up at him with worried eyes. Evan, I am scared. He touched her hand gently. Why? She looked away. My sisters. They are confident and beautiful. They attract people easily. They never reacted to anyone the way they reacted to you. I'm afraid. She took a deep breath, trying to control her shaking voice. I'm afraid they will want you too. Evan stepped closer and lifted her chin gently so she would look at him. Lyra, he said softly, I didn't travel across half the galaxy for anyone else. I traveled for you. But you are the one I met first. The one who listened to me. The one who showed me this world with kindness. That is why I love you. Your sisters cannot change that. Her eyes softened, but she was still unsure. They are very persuasive. They will not stop easily. I will not let anyone confuse what we have, Evan said. My choice is already made. Lyra felt relieved for a moment, until another voice echoed from the doorway. That is a strong promise for one human. They turned. The sisters had followed them. Saris, Nira, Valia, and Kaelri stood together, all gazing at Evan in different ways. Not angry, not rude, but interested, very interested. Saris stepped forward. Human Evan, there is a Solani ritual you must follow if you wish to marry our sister. All sisters must accept your presence in the family. But when a suitor impresses all sisters at once, Nira finished the sentence with a small smile. It means he is exceptional. Valia clasped her hands gently. And exceptional partners attract attention. Kaelri looked directly at Evan. We want to know you better. All of us. Lyra felt her heart drop. She whispered, Please don't do this. But Saris lifted a hand calmly. This is not disrespect, little sister. It is culture. When someone brings emotional balance, harmony, and strength into a household, all sisters may show interest. Nira grinned. And he clearly has all three. Valia nodded with admiration. Humans are more beautiful than the stories said. Kaelri spoke softly, almost thoughtfully. We want to understand what makes him choose only you. Evan stepped in front of Lyra instinctively. I came here to marry Lyra. My feelings are not divided. The sisters exchanged another look, this one full of silent conversation and growing curiosity. Then we must test that loyalty, Saris said gently. Lyra's breath caught. No. Please, no tests. But the sisters were already forming a circle around them, their expressions filled with determination. Saris concluded calmly, Human Evan. Tomorrow you will attend the Harmony Gathering, where each sister will have the right to speak, question, and observe your intentions. Nira smirked lightly. We'll see if your heart stays with Lyra, Valia added softly. Or if Harmony guides you elsewhere. And Kaelri whispered the final words. Let us see if one human can truly love only one Solani. Lyra grabbed Evan's hand tightly, fear filling her eyes. Evan squeezed back with quiet strength. Whatever this Harmony Gathering was, it was clear that the sisters were not stepping back. They were stepping forward, all of them. The next morning arrived too quickly for Lyra. She had barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she imagined her sisters surrounding Evan, asking bold questions, testing him, judging him. She feared they would outshine her, confuse him, or somehow convince him that they were better choices. Evan, however, woke with calm confidence. He stood near the balcony of their guest room, watching the gentle sunrise shimmer across Valaris 5. The light reflected across the crystal buildings and turned the entire city into a glowing ocean. When Lyra finally approached him, he noticed the tired look in her eyes. You didn't rest, he said softly. I tried, she whispered. But I am scared, Evan. The Harmony Gathering. It is not simple. Sisters can ask anything. They can show interest openly. They can even request that the matriarch reconsider the match. Evan touched her shoulder gently. And you think your sisters will try that? She lowered her head. I know my sisters. They are not cruel. But once they find something interesting, they do not step back easily. And you, Evan, you impressed all of them. He smiled slightly. I didn't try to impress anyone. That is why it happened, she whispered. Her fingers twisted nervously as she spoke. The thought of losing him made her heart feel heavy. For Lyra, love was something quiet and delicate. She never expected someone as steady as Evan to choose her. And now, The idea that her sisters might challenge that bond terrified her. Evan lifted her chin gently. Lyra, listen to me. She looked into his calm human eyes. I am choosing you today. I will choose you tomorrow. I will choose you for every gathering, every test, every question. Nothing they do can change what I feel. Lyra breathed out slowly, trying to believe it. But the gathering was not an event she could ignore. Solani culture had rules: respect, testing harmony, ensuring emotional alignment. And once the sisters announced their interest, the tradition required Evan to face all of them openly and honestly. A soft chime echoed through the room. It was time. The Harmony Hall was large and circular, with soft glowing walls and floating lanterns that moved like gentle stars. The center of the hall had a round platform where the suitor Evan was meant to stand. Around him, there were 5 seated chairs for the sisters and the matriarch. Evan walked to the platform with calm steps. Lyra followed behind him, her fingers trembling. Saris, Nira, Velia, and Kaelri were already seated. Their expressions carried different intentions. Saris looked thoughtful and sharp, ready to analyze him. Nira grinned confidently, as if this were a competition she intended to win. Velia seemed almost too gentle, watching Evan as though he was a warm light she wanted to understand. Kaelri remained quiet, but her eyes were deep and unreadable. The matriarch entered slowly, her robes decorated with the symbols of wisdom and guidance. She raised her hand. Let the harmony gathering begin. Lyra held her breath. Saris stood first. Human Evan, she began in her calm diplomatic tone. I wish to test your emotional clarity. Speak truthfully. What was the moment you realized you cared for Lyra more than any other? Evan answered without hesitation. It was the day she showed me the crystal stream. She told me she liked the quiet because it helped her think. And I realized her silence wasn't emptiness, it was strength. She taught me how to listen to a world without noise. That's when I knew. Saris blinked in surprise. She wasn't expecting such a soft yet powerful answer. That is, a beautiful explanation, she said quietly. She sat down. Nira stood next. Her posture was straight, confident, almost challenging. Human, she said. Solani admire physical and emotional strength. If danger came to this home, what would you do? Lyra stiffened. She didn't like this question, but Evan answered calmly. I would protect the family if needed, not because it is my duty, but because it is right, and because Lyra is here. Nira raised a brow. And if you had to choose between safety for yourself or safety for Lyra? None. Aban. Aban, Evan replied instantly. Lyra. 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 Nira paused. It was clear she had expected him to hesitate or answer with caution. Instead, he spoke with complete certainty. A small smile appeared on her face, half admiration, half challenge. You are stronger than you look, she said quietly. She sat down. Velia stood next. Her presence felt gentle, like warm sunlight. Human Evan, she said softly. I sense peace in your aura. Humans are said to be emotional, sometimes unstable. But you are steady. How do you stay calm during stress? Evan smiled slightly. Because Lyra makes me calm. Being with her removes stress. When I am with her, I forget the noise of the galaxy. Lyra's face flushed. Velia placed a hand over her heart. Your connection to her is very harmonious. It brings healing just to hear it. She sat down with a peaceful nod. Finally, Kaelri rose. Silence followed. She walked slowly toward Evan, her gaze deeper than the other sisters. When she stopped in front of him, she spoke in a quiet voice that carried surprising warmth. You chose Lyra instantly, before meeting anyone else. Why? What made you certain? Evan held Kaelri's gaze with calm respect. Because she was herself. She didn't try to impress me. She didn't try to hide her gentle nature. She showed me kindness without expecting anything in return. And I wanted to protect that kindness. I wanted to stay close to it. Kaelri's eyes softened. The first sign of emotion she had shown. You speak with truth, she said softly. And truth is rare. She returned to her seat. The hall was silent. The sisters had expected a calm human, but not a human who understood love with such clarity. Not someone who answered without fear. Not someone who stood in the center of their tradition with steady strength. The matriarch rose. "Sisters, you have heard his answers. Do you accept his presence in our family?" Before anyone could speak, Saris leaned forward slightly. "I accept him. I find him admirable." Nira crossed her arms, pretending not to show her interest. "I accept him." Velia nodded gently. "I accept him with warmth." Kaelri spoke last, and her words were the most surprising. "I accept him, but I wish to understand him more." Lyra's heart squeezed with anxiety. The matriarch looked at the sisters, then at Evan. "Human Evan," she said, "you have impressed all my daughters. According to Solani law, when a suitor earns admiration from multiple sisters, he may be considered for more than one match." Lyra gasped softly and stepped forward. "No, mother, please, he came for me. Only me." Evan took her hand gently, calming her shaking fingers. He stepped to the center again. "With complete respect," he said clearly. "I am honored that the sisters find me interesting. But my heart belongs only to Lyra. I am here to marry her. Not anyone else." The words were simple, but they carried the weight of a mountain. All four sisters exchanged glances again. They finally understood that Evan's loyalty was not gentle, it was strong. Stronger than they expected. The matriarch nodded slowly. "Then there is one final question." She looked deeper into Evan's eyes. "If Lyra feels unworthy, unsure, or afraid of losing you, will you stay by her side, even when she doubts herself?" Evan didn't hesitate. "I will stay. Always." Lyra covered her mouth, overwhelmed by emotion. Somewhere behind her, Saris whispered, "He is truly unique." Nira smiled almost proudly. Velia sighed softly with admiration. Kaelri simply stared with deep understanding. The matriarch raised her hand. "Then the harmony gathering ends. Tomorrow, I will give my final decision." Lyra rushed to Evan and held his hand tightly the moment it was allowed. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," Evan corrected gently. But as they walked out of the hall, Lyra noticed something troubling. Her sisters no longer looked simply curious. They looked drawn to him, like he was a rare star they all wanted to understand. And though Evan had declared his loyalty, the sisters were not finished yet. The day after the harmony gathering felt heavier than the sky itself for Lyra. She walked silently beside Evan through the glowing corridors of her family home, her hands clasped tightly together. The matriarch would give her final decision soon. The sisters were waiting, and Lyra feared that even though Evan declared his loyalty again and again, her sister's interest might create complications she wasn't ready for. She stopped suddenly. "Evan," she whispered, "I don't know what the matriarch will decide. Even if she approves us, my sisters, they still feel something for you." Evan gently touched her shoulder. "Feel something?" "Yes," Lyra said softly, looking away. "Interest, admiration, confusion." The gathering made it worse. They saw your calm nature. They saw your heart. Evan gave a small smile. "Lyra, I can't control what others feel, but I can control what I feel. And that will never change." She looked at him with worried eyes. "I trust you. I'm only afraid they will try again." "Then I will keep reminding everyone of the truth," Evan replied. "That you are the one I chose." Lyra breathed in deeply, trying to steady herself. She loved hearing those words, simple, direct, and honest. Human affection was so clear, unlike Solani affection, which was often spoken with poetic hints instead of certainty. But the matriarch's decision still hung like a cloud above them. A soft chime echoed through the hall. The summon. "It is time," Lyra whispered. Together, they walked into the main chamber. Inside, the matriarch sat on her elevated seat. The four sisters stood in a semicircle behind her, Saris calm and thoughtful, Nira confident, Velia warm-eyed, and Kaelri still observing with deep understanding. The sisters watched Evan as he entered the room. Lyra felt her heart tighten when she noticed their expressions. None of them looked angry. Instead, they looked respectful yet undeniably drawn to him. Evan bowed respectfully to the matriarch. "Thank you for welcoming me into your home again." The matriarch nodded. Human Evan, today we decide your place among us. Sit. Evan remained standing. With respect, matriarch, I would prefer to stand. Saris tilted her head. Because it shows readiness? Evan smiled. Because it shows honesty. The sisters exchanged small glances. The matriarch raised a hand. Then I will stand with you. To everyone's surprise, she rose from her seat. Her long, shimmering robes moved like liquid light. She stepped forward and faced Evan directly. Human Evan, she began. Yesterday you answered questions from all my daughters. You faced them with calmness and truth. You impressed each one some more deeply than others. Lyra's heart skipped. Her fingers twisted nervously. The matriarch continued. Solani tradition states that when all sisters find harmony with a suitor, the family must consider what role he will have among us. Evan nodded quietly. I understand. And yet, the matriarch said softly, you spoke again and again with the same certainty. That you choose Lyra. She looked at Lyra, then back at Evan. Do you still choose her now, even after knowing how complicated Solani customs can be? Evan answered without a single second of hesitation. Yes. I choose Lyra. I will always choose her. And, Lyra covered her mouth, overwhelmed by emotion. Saris softly murmured. He did not waver. Velia whispered. His aura stayed bright. Nira nodded slowly. Even after knowing we admired him, Kaelri simply stared with calm acceptance. The matriarch stepped closer to Evan. You honor our culture, yet you stay loyal to your heart. That is rare among any species. Evan replied, Lyra taught me how to be calm. She taught me how to listen. She taught me how to love quietly. Everything I am here is because of her. Lyra's cheeks glowed softly. The matriarch lifted her hand. Then here is my decision. The room turned silent. The lanterns dimmed. The sisters straightened. Lyra held her breath until her chest ached. The matriarch smiled gently. I approve your union. Lyra gasped and grabbed Evan's arm. Saris released a soft sigh of acceptance. Velia smiled warmly with relief. Nira nodded with respect. Kaelri closed her eyes, as if she already expected this outcome. But the matriarch wasn't finished. There is more, she said. Lyra froze. Evan stayed calm, waiting. The matriarch looked at all her daughters. Your sisters admire you, Evan. Some of that admiration is simple curiosity. Some is deeper. But admiration is not love. It is not the same as choosing. The sisters lowered their heads slightly. She continued, you have been kind and respectful to each of them. Yet your heart stayed pointed in one direction. That makes your choice strong. And it makes our path clear. Evan gave a small nod. Then the matriarch turned to her other daughters. Saris, Nira, Velia, Kaelri. They looked up. You may admire him. You may respect him. But this home must honor his bond with Lyra. None of you are to challenge it again. Lymanon. 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 Nira opened her mouth as if she wanted to argue, but then closed it quietly. Saris placed a hand over her heart. I accept, Mother. Velia nodded gracefully. I wish them harmony. Kaelri spoke last. He chose her long before he entered this home. We must respect that choice. Lyra exhaled in relief. The matriarch now faced Evan again. Human Evan, I give you my blessing, and I welcome you into the Solani family as Lyra's chosen partner. Lyra couldn't hold herself anymore. She stepped forward, gently took Evan's hands, and whispered, Thank you. Thank you for staying with me. Evan squeezed her fingers softly. There was never any other choice. The bonding ceremony took place that evening beneath the crystal sky. Soft lights floated around them like glowing petals. Lyra wore a gown made from silk-like threads that shimmered pink and silver. Evan wore a simple traditional Solani robe, modified for humans, glowing faintly around his shoulders. The sisters stood in a respectful line behind them, not as rivals but as supporters. Saris smiled with calm fondness. Nira crossed her arms but gave a proud nod. Valia's eyes shone warmly. Kaelri looked peaceful, almost satisfied with the harmony restored. The matriarch stepped forward, holding a small crystal. Lyra, Evan, stepped together. They did. The crystal glowed softly when their hands touched. The matriarch spoke the final words. Your hearts are now in harmony. Walk your path together with truth, peace, and loyalty. A gentle wave of light washed over them. Evan looked at Lyra. Lyra looked at Evan, eyes full of emotion. In that moment, the world around them felt quiet, warm, and complete. I love you, Lyra whispered, voice shaking. Evan smiled softly. And I love you. The ceremony ended, and the lanterns rose into the sky, like stars being released. The sisters approached afterward, each offering respect. Saris said, He is a good match. You chose wisely, sister. Velia added, May harmony follow you always. Nira smirked. Take care of him. Rare men like that don't appear often. Kaelri placed a gentle hand on Lyra's shoulder. You feared losing him. Yet he held tighter. Remember that. Lyra nodded tearfully. Evan placed an arm around her, steady and warm. Together, they walked out into the glowing night, 2 hearts, 1 path, and a future waiting with peace instead of fear. And though the sisters had once admired him too strongly, in the end, only one bond mattered, only one love stayed true, only one choice remained unshaken, Lyra's, and Evan's, forever.